What is going on, YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I am very excited to bring you this BT9 deck list because this is, if you followed my content, you know, one of, if not my favorite archetypes of all time, Gabumon, and I gotta update it for the BT9. This is a deck that I'll probably play in every format. I do think it's very strong in this format. Has a really good chance at being really strong because a lot of decks are sitting and raising, so you're gonna be able to just go in for really big bond turns, especially with cards like Lightning Joust. And it's a deck that's just fairly consistent in these non-mulligan metagames and these tournaments, just because there are a lot of cards that allow you to draw. A lot of consistency with the things like the Mats to be able to gain you cards, Davis, the Leomons and stuff like that. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into the list. Alright, so starting off with the Digitama, we're actually playing a 3-2 split with the Upa and Kiaro. Now, this is not something that happens very often, and that's because I couldn't decide which egg I liked more. As we get more into the list, you'll see why Kiaromon could be so good, especially with Upamon. There are a lot of times that you're not fully swinging every turn, so there are some turns where you're just kind of chilling on the board, so you can get more value from Kiaromon, a little bit more than Upamon. So I kind of was playing at 3-2. I think Upamon is just more consistent of a card, but I still think Kiaromon's really strong. I don't really know. You could very easily just go 4-1 either of these. I couldn't really make a decision, and honestly, with playing all the games, I haven't really felt like I needed to go to either egg. They're both very effective in different scenarios. Being able to have one of each on board does give you different kind of ways that you can go about drawing the cards, but either way, like I said, the 3-2 split isn't that common, but I think it works in this deck just because of how the deck plays out. Alright, now getting on into the rookies, we'll start with the Gabumon. We have 4 of the EX1 Gabumon. This card is very crucial to the deck. It's a very strong Gabumon, but the main reason is the inheritable. Being able to search a Gabumon or a Tamer is really big because we are playing red Tamers in this deck, so being able to have a source to search out any colored Tamer is going to be very helpful. So Gabumon is a very big piece to this deck. A lot of the times, the champion lineup kind of caters to this card a little bit just because you want to be able to have things to put on top of this, be able to swing, get the win attacking, get the search, find that consistency and whatnot. But for EX1 Gabu for sure, I just love this card. It really just ups the consistency of this deck a lot. Next up, we got 4 of the BT6 Gabu. I feel like this is just fairly standard. You are playing Gabumon, so you want to be able to get that extra unsuspend and get that extra swing, especially when we're pairing it with cards like Lightning Joust. So obviously playing this at 4, and it also has the really great effect of when a mat's played, you get to gain a memory. So when this is chilling out there, this card can be a threat because it can gain you memory and security if a mat comes out. So yeah, these two are very staple. Then I'm playing 2 of the BT1 Draw Gabumon here. This is just a consistency card, being able to draw on play. With this deck, there are some times where you're kind of sitting and raising for a turn or two just to get that proper mat turn. So being able to have things that have on-play effects for those turns, or whenever you just need to pass turn, is very effective if you don't have something like a Tamer to pass turn. So I just like this as the on-play. And then also we are playing, to finish off the Gabumon, 1 of the promo Gabumon. I don't think this card is the best. I really didn't like it a lot in the Gabumon meta in BT6. However, I do think it is very good in this deck just because we are playing the red Tamers. So again, just like Gabumon, this adds another consistency to be able to hit it. You don't want your red cards being dead in your hand. You want to find that Tamer. Plus, you want to find Hero just so you have your memory Tamer going. So this card isn't super crucial. It's definitely cuttable, but I like this over the third Gabumon just because there are times where maybe you have a Joust and a Delicate Plan in hand or something. You need to get that red Tamer out. So this allows you to search top 5, which is a lot of cards to look at the top of to find a Tamer. So I like it at 1. Then to finish off the rookies, we just have 2 Madoki. Very strong in this metagame, lots of memory boost going in. There's Alphamon or Yukon mode, things like that. Just a lot of things that Madoki really stops. If I'm playing a blue deck or any color that plays memory blockers, I really like them, especially in blue decks because it just fits so well. I think Madoki is really underrated in this metagame, or I think just people aren't using it as much, even though it's one of the most powerful times to have a memory blocker is this metagame right now. So the Madoki was just a easy inclusion for me. It does hurt to cut some Gabu sometimes, but the effect of having this Madoki to for the turns where you need it, where your opponent has a couple memory boosts, or about to go for that Alphamon, or anything like that, Madoki just helps, so I definitely want it in there. It really helps the deck out. Next up, we're getting on into the champions. We have the 4 Kumamon. Now, this deck has like a side kind of blue hybrid package, mostly just because blue hybrids are what I think works best with this deck. It allows you to be able to go in for chips early, go for hybrid for game, go for bond to be able to clear out, be able to pop a memory boost, go for Kuma, or anything like that. So I think the hybrids work really good here. In the Gabumon, it's kind of hard because your champions do matter a lot, so you don't really want to be playing ones that aren't super effective. So Kumamon being a hybrid helps a lot, also being able to strip sources and whatnot. But yeah, I think Kumamon's just a fairly simple card. It really works in the deck. Next up, we got 2 Korikaku, and we're only playing 2 because I'm also playing 1 of the Kendo Garurumon. Now, we don't really need to play more Korikakus because we only have Tommy limited. We're not really super playing a blue hybrid package, just kind of the side. So this is just nice to be able to go on top of your Kuma or on top of your Kendo to be able to get those stuns and stuff like that, or just be able to cycle for 1 on top of it. I'm only playing it at 2 because, like I said, it's not super crucial in this deck, and I like the Kendo Garurumon because this deck does gain a lot of memory, especially with the card that we're going to go over next, and so being able to have extra ways to be able to remove memory blockers is something that I valued, so I just want to play the one Kendo. You don't really play it at more than one because it's not that good, but it is a nice little tech, and it is just something good to put on top of EX1 Gabu as well. Like I said, you need strong champions to put on top to be able to swing to get that effect off. Kendo is nice because then you get the search off EX1 Gabu, and then you can go ahead and bounce a rookie as well. So like Kendo with that combo. All right, now finishing off the champions, we are playing the 4 Leomon. Now this is kind of our main champion outside of the hybrids. You can put this on top of the Gabumon. It works really well because you can swing, get the X1 Gabu effect. It has on deletion, gain 2 memory, and draw a card, so you can go ahead and get the search. If it goes down, you get to gain a memory, draw a card. You get to start playing the cards that you just searched out or anything like that. But it's also just very good in this metagame because it is a blocker with on deletion, gain 2 memory, draw a card, and so in OTK formats where people are swinging in a lot, being able to set up 1 or 2 of these on the board does make things a lot harder for your opponent because there's going to be a lot of times where they swing, it either ends their turn, or that 2 memory gain makes it so they can't go for the hybrid or stuff like that. So Leomon works really good. A lot of people like Leomon and Bond. Obviously, the Leo Bond thing was kind of a thing. We didn't go full in on that with like Jerry's or anything like that, but I still think Leomon's really good. It just works with the EX1 Gabu, works as a great card for both cycle, memory gain, stuff like that. But this is why I wanted the Kendo. Just extra ways to get rid of memory removal, especially because we're just playing these so much that you don't really want this memory to be blocked when you do get it. Then getting on into the ultimates, we are just playing 3 Beowulfmon because we do have all the hybrids in the deck, so being able to put this on top for 1 to be able to bounce things and recycle hybrids is nice. Again, it also is another way to bounce things like memory blockers or even just level 4s that are annoying like Gabumon or maybe Scatter Mode or something like that. So I like the Beowulfmon. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go 2 or 3 because I don't think it's super necessary. It's just kind of nice to have. I'm considering cutting down to 2. I don't know what I would cut it yet, but if you are looking for some spots to cut, you could potentially cut this down to 2 because it's not super crucial. It's just a nice thing to have, and since you're playing so many hybrids, it doesn't really clunk the deck at all. It's just when we get into the Tamers, you're going to see we don't have as many blue Tamers, so sometimes you don't have the Tamer to go for your hybrid plays, which is why Beowulf is not as good because you can just put your champions on top of your EX1 Gabu anyway. Go Kuma, strip a Source, draw with Kiaro, put Korikaku on top to get the 1 to Digivolve draw, be able to stun, stuff like that. So the Beowulf isn't super necessary, but I haven't really felt it was super clunky. It's just it feels like this 1 slot could potentially be a little bit stronger. And then next up, the boy himself, Gabumon, Bond of Friendship. I only played at 3. I always played at 3. It's a card that you're never really playing more than 1 of in a game, so anytime you have more than 1 in your hand, it starts to accumulate as dead cards, so I want to minimize that as much as possible. And plus with EX1 Gabu, you're able to search so much, and with the Leomons if you pair it too, because you'll be able to swing, get the search, and then get the draw off the on deletion. So you're going to be able to find this a lot of times. Sometimes you do miss it, but I don't think putting it up to 4 is going to make any difference. There are just some times where you don't see the card that you need, and that does happen, but I don't think you play 4. It is just a little bit clunky. I've always liked it at 3. Now getting into the Tamers, we have 4 Mat, of course. It is Gabumon, so we want the Mat be able to gain memory and draw cards. When we promote, it makes it so that the Gabumon turns are much more potent because you can promote your Gabumon, gain all that memory on top of the memory Tamers, memory boost, whatever you have in Hammer Sparks, have enough memory to be able to go for Bond and all that stuff. So this card is good early game for consistency, obviously, to be able to gain memory, draw cards, and kind of expend your turns. But in the late game, it is kind of what makes the deck work because you're able to gain 2, 3, 4 extra memory on the promotion on that 1 turn that you're going for the Bond into Joust, a Delicate Plan, or whatever, and you just make sure you have your memory. And then for memory Tamers, we are just playing 1 Davis. I was playing 3 Hero, now I'm only playing 2 Hero. I decided to cut for a Davis because Hero, when you play them on top of each other, doesn't really help that much. When you're swinging with Bond, you're at such a high DP threshold, especially when you're using Lightning Joust, that second ones don't really matter. And then also, like I was mentioning earlier, you don't play as many blue Tamers, so I wanted an extra blue Tamer to be able to have a source for my hybrids to go on top of. So Davis just kind of fit. It's a Searcher. It's another memory Tamer to hit, and it's a blue Tamer. So obviously we all love Davis. Also playing 2-drop starter deck Tai as my 3rd and final red source, just because I was playing 3. When I cut the Hero, 2 red sources was just not enough. It was too inconsistent, so I decided to play the Tai. I was testing out the new blue-red dual Tamer, and it just felt really clunky and really bad in the early game, honestly, as where with this, it's nice. It's a 2-drop Tamer, so you can use it to fill out curves. You can use it to put your opponent at 1, and it also gives you a plus 1k boost, which is nice. It does come in up sometimes when you're swinging with your bigger Digimon, or even just being at 5k with a Leomon, it does help because then you can trade into things that you normally wouldn't be able to and stuff like that. So I did like the Tai as the last red source, but again, it's just you just need the red source for the red cards. But I didn't want to play 3 Hero because it just didn't feel good. The 1 Davis, 2 Hero, and then the Tai as the 3rd red source is good. And also tie works because you can play it for cheap if you don't have hero out. You can play it for cheap and still have your turn to be able to play Lightning Joust. So that's another nice thing about it. Then to finish off Tamers, we are just playing the one Tommy. It did just recently get restricted, so we can't play any more. I wasn't really playing a lot of Tommies in Bond previously, but since that one, it was pretty easy to fit. So I wanted to test it, and then with all the hybrids in there, it just worked really well. In this metagame, there's a lot of times where you just want to chill with this Tommy in your hand. So when your opponent promotes, you can just strip a bunch of sources, so it kind of just sits in your hand a lot of times, but it is one of those things where it can come out of security, be really nice. You can put Korikaku on top of it to get double stuns, or go Korikaku into Beowulf, swing, bounce back Korikaku, stun, bounce and stun too, essentially. So the Tommy is really nice. It's not super needed, so if you wanted to cut it, but it just works really well with this deck. It doesn't really take anything away, especially when you need Tamers to go on top of, and this Tamer is a fantastic Tamer to go on top of. Much better than these ones. Now, to finish off the deck, we are going to be getting into the options. So to start off with my favorite Hammer Spark, I'm only playing 2 when normally I play 3 to 4 Bond, just because we are playing the 4 Leomon. So with the mats, the Leomons, the Howling memory boosts, and stuff like that, there was just so much memory gain that I was playing it at 3. I was trying to find a slot to cut for some more cards. I decided to cut the Hammer Spark because there's so much other memory gain that I didn't think you super needed it. But Hammer Spark is just so strong that it was not an easy cut for me to do, because in this deck especially, Hammer Spark is very good. You want to make sure you have the memory that you need each turn for the plays that you need, or if you just need 1 extra memory to make sure that you're getting 2 cards out in a turn, instead of just playing 1 card and passing, stuff like that. So obviously Hammer Spark is very strong. Then for our removal options, we are playing 2 Rattlestar and 1 Cocytus Breath. So why I chose Rattlestar over just playing Cocytus Breath in this metagame is because of mostly Gatekeeper. Against D-Reaper, this matchup can be very hard, especially if they get multiple Gatekeepers out, so Rattlestar helps out a lot. Rattlestar's secondary effect of bottom decking any Digimon when they have 3 or more is pretty much always going to be live versus D-Reapers, so being able to bottom deck Gatekeeper is going to be much stronger than bouncing it to your hand, because then they just play it for reduced cost, they get to recover again, and then it's just back on the board. So I preferred Rattlestar a lot more, plus it's really good in matchups that I find to be a little bit difficult, things like Imperial Dramon, because you'll be able to bounce back the Pyil Dramons with Rattlestar and stuff like that, or if they go into Dragon mode, play 2 sources out, then they have 3, so you can bottom deck anything. Stuff like that. So I really like that Rattlestar, but then I play the 1 Cocytus Breath just because we are in big stack meta. Rattlestar only bounces level 5 or lower unless they have 3 or more Digimon, in which then it bottom decks, but it is restricted. You can't bounce level 6 that are just sitting there, so I wanted to play another removal card. I decided to go with Cocytus Breath over Rattlestar just because it hits everything else, level 6 higher and stuff like that. So it's nice to hit things like Oryuken mode when you can't hit things like that with anything else in the deck. So I decided to play as 1, but Cocytus Breath is extremely expensive and it can be very clunky if you don't have the memory or the time to really play it. So I didn't want to play it at more than 1, but Rattlestar just wasn't enough, so I needed to add something else. Then we got 2 Howling Memory Boost. I decided to go with Howling over Blue Memory Boost because 1, I didn't really feel like I needed to get extra search. I already feel like the deck is fairly consistent and you draw a lot. And 2, Gabumon is a deck that needs some time to set up. Sometimes you need to get your mat out. With this build, you need to get your red Tamers out a lot of time. Try to find your Lightning Jousts, your Delicate Plan, stuff like that. So Howling Memory Boost does help that out. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of decks that just chill in raising and stuff, and that's not the purpose of these. The purpose of these is if your opponent plays a rookie, plays an armor Digimon, you can strip and you can stun. You're saving 1 less check for next turn. You just are saving extra time, and then you have delay later. So I preferred Howling Memory Boost because you wanted some more defensive aspect, and I just didn't think Blue Memory Boost was necessary at all. Then, of course, we got our 1 Ice Wall. Shout out Team Ice Wall. Just one of the best cards, if not the best card in the deck. No real reason not to play it there. Now to finish off the deck, we have the red options that are the reason why you're playing the red Tamers, which is going to be 2 Lightning Joust and a Delicate Plan. Why would we play this instead of just playing blue Tamers and offensive plug-in A when we can also just get Scary Attack +1? Well, the thing is when you're playing in a long tournament like a regional and you're going to make day 2, if you have really bad near auto loss matchups, it's very hard. You can make it through Swiss, but if you hit that one matchup in top 16, then you can just end in top 16, and the security control decks are definitely that deck for Bond of Friendship. It is extremely hard to beat it. All it takes is 1 strong removal card, and you are done because you have to trash 2 security to go into Bond, and then it just goes down to something like a Wyvern's Breath, a Chaos Degradation, anything like that, and now you are just pretty much out of the game. So with Lightning Joust and a Delicate Plan, it does give you a way to go through that. Obviously, Delicate Plan can get you through there. Lightning Joust is fine outside of it as well. Like I was playing offensive plug-in A because you want Scary Attack +1, and so like just giving a Bond Scary Attack +1, Scary Attack +2 to swing 1-2 checks, unsuspend, and then swing, unsuspend, swing. You can just clear out a lot. So Lightning Joust is fine, but a Delicate Plan was pretty clunky at 2. in pretty much any matchup that wasn't a deck that was security control or one that played like 4 Megadeth. Outside of that, it felt super clunky, so I decided to cut it down to 1. I really only need it versus those really slow control decks, and I just kind of have to bank on the fact that I will hit it, and it won't just be my bottom security check, and I'll have time to get to it, which from all my testing so far has never happened to me. So you could go up to 2, so you have higher consistency, so if it does get put at the bottom check of security, you can still get it before like the game is over. But you are going to clunk it in other matchups. It is not that good in other matchups. I was so frustrated with how bad it was at 2 of in other matchups that I had to cut 1 because there was just too many times where I had 2 in my hand and they just felt always dead. So that's why I'm playing 2 and 1 here. But again, that's why you're playing the red package. We don't want to have auto loss matches, and when I build decks, I try to build them for tournaments. So in my opinion, this is what you're going to need to successfully play in a tournament and try to actually win it. But with that being said, this is my list. I love this list. I love Gabumon, obviously. This deck I do think feels really good in this meta, being able to Lightning Joust while your opponent's still sitting in security and stuff like that. You can get a lot of aggression really early, you can have a lot of consistency, and you do have the red package to help you out in your weak spots. But if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what you liked about the deck, what you didn't like. But with that being said, I will catch you next time. Peace out.